Hello and welcome back. Today we will discuss another new topic in grammar. The topic is figures of speech. Let's start today's e-classes. We will do this topic in two parts. Although there are many figures of speech, but in our syllabus there are only 26 figures of speech. Let us first understand what is the figure of speech. Figures of speech is a way of expressing or narrating or saying something. Figures of speech are chiefly used in poetry for the sake of vividness. They add beauty to the poetry. Let's see first 13 figures of speech. Types of figures of speech: simile, metaphor, personification, apostrophe, alliteration, repetition, tautology, antithesis, oxymoron, irony, epigram, paradox, and metonymy. Let's start with the first one, simile. Direct comparison is made between two unlike objects which have at least one common point. Words like or as are used for comparison. For example, and the children look like bear's cubs. Second example, the moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Let's understand metaphor. Indirect comparison is made between two unlike objects. Metaphor doesn't use like or as for comparison. For example, the bleeding bark will heal. There is indirect comparison between skin of a person and bark of trees. The point of comparison is to heal after bleeding. Second, the silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. Silence is compared to gold. The point of comparison is to be precious. Next is personification. Inanimate objects and abstract notions are said to have human qualities. For example, it is the human earth that we defile. Inanimate earth is given the animate quality of being human. Second, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The inanimate sun is given the human quality of having feet. Next is apostrophe. A direct address is made to inanimate object or abstract idea, as if it were present and capable of understanding. For example, wind, come softly. A direct address is made to the wind. Second example, listen, the glass is breaking. Direct address is made to someone who is not present. Let's see alliteration. In this figure of speech, there is a repetition of consonant sounds, especially in the beginning of words. For example, he won't do what you tell him. The sound of consonant W is repeated in the words won't and what. He stacks in his vivid stripes. The sound of consonant ST is repeated in the words chalks and stripes. Repetition. Repetition of words and phrases to increase the musical effect of a poem. First example, frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors. The word crumbling is repeated for poetic effect. I think I know enough of hate. I is repeated for poetic effect. Tautology. Unnecessary use of words or ideas which do not add to the meaning but repeat it. For example, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood. The words rafters and wood denote the same meaning. Second example, ink trickled down to the bottom of the household. Unnecessary use of words down and bottom, which suggest the same meaning. Antithesis. Contrasting or opposite ideas or words used within the sentence for poetic effect. First example, I will arise and go now, for always night and day. The opposite words night and day are used in the same sentence. Again, second example, over, harbor, and city. Opposite words harbor and city are used in the same sentence for the poetic effect. Oxymoron, special form of antithesis where two contradictory terms are united to give the expression a point. Or if something, when roaming round, a noble wild beast greets you. In this example, the opposite words noble and wild have been used. Second example, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage, the opposite words safe and cage are used. Irony. The real meaning is exactly the opposite of that which is literally conveyed. For example, just notice if he eats you. The meaning is how can one notice if one is eaten? Second example, his strength behind bars. The meaning is exactly opposite that the tiger is helpless behind bars and without strength. Epigram, a brief pointed saying which is introduced with an aim to excite, surprise and attract attention. For example, and he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human." That means a pointed statement that the woman was so selfish that she was not worth being a human being. Second example, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. A pointed statement that say such a woman could provoke a saint who is supposed to be very calm. Next is paradox. A self contradictory or absurd statement which has some hidden truth in it. For example, there is no one so poor as a wealthy miser. Next example, when you aim at nothing, you hit it. Next is metonymy. An attribute or a thing is represented by another closely related to it. For example, though as for that the passing there. The words passing there represents the travelers who take the road. Second example, I wonder where they get those tokens. The word tokens represents virtues. That's the end of the part 1. I hope you have understood this topic. Thank you.